Yeah, Conquest, 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 Conquest. And yeah, I guess just unmute the stream and we'll be ready to go. Or have you already done that?
Did it just now.
Okay, so welcome to Conquest. First off, a couple of disclaimers. Number one is that this PC port is trash, to put it lightly. It has the propensity to crash, and it probably will crash at some point during this run. I will be saving at every moment that I can think of to save, like every save point and such. But if it crashes at a point where I haven't saved recently, I will be loading a save that I made before the game, or before the run. So don't be too surprised if I have to do that at least some point during the run, because the Rebirth 2 PC port is pretty bad. But yeah, I'm just showing that I don't have any DLC as well. This will be new game, no DLC. We might even get a crash within the first minute, in which case I might just restart the run altogether, but otherwise, yeah, we're ready to go, so I guess Seafresh can give the countdown again.
Alright, guys, Conquest percent is ready. You guys ready? Expect those Irish hearts. Who wants these spam? So, 3, 2, 1, go!
Okay, welcome to Rebirth 2. First up is pretty much the same as the New Game Plus run, at least for a tiny bit. We have what will be a completely fresh file with no DLC. But first up, like I said, we have the same intro as we did in New Game Plus yesterday. There is pretty much no difference. I still use 1 EXE on CFW Judge. He still takes 0 damage. The only difference is that there'll be some tutorials, which I got to skip in New Game Plus. And this is where it might crash. Okay, it didn't crash, so we're okay for now. There is no reason why it won't crash later though. Also unskippable EXE drive. Also at some point, my notes didn't show up correctly, so I'm just going to have to tab out for like 10 seconds to make them show up properly. I'll just get that done pretty much after the intro. I can remember how things go until about the start of chapter 1. But until after like chapter 1, but after that I'm going to have to tab out and get my notes out properly. So yeah, it's just like the Rebirth free run where if I try and click on anything but the game it will pause. So don't get too surprised when the music pauses temporarily. I will try and warn you when I do it though. I'll just wing it during chapter 1 because it's fairly straightforward. Or at least until I've finished off the first couple of tutorials.
It's time to depart.
Okay, I miscounted the tutorials there. Okay, so whoops, you now. So I don't need to do too much. The only thing I need to do is set my combos to be only power combos. I have no real use for break combos in this game, because I can just use power combos instead.
Leave it to me.
And just like the game, well just like the New Game Plus run, I can deal with these first 2 bosses pretty quickly. Or bosses, quote unquote. They're not so much bosses as just pushovers.
I can go any.
So the first boss I use Demonic Inferno to take out the 3 doggoos. The second one I use IF to guard break and then finish off with a skill from Netgear. Easy enough.
Let's do our best.
Okay, so I'm going to check my notes after I leave this dungeon, because that's the first time that I'm going to need them. So you'll just hear the game pause for about 10 seconds once I'm done in this dungeon. But first off, I'm going to finish the quest.
So, who wants to get beat?
Okay, I wasn't meant to menu yet. IF has very slightly less than 720 SP right now, and 720 is the amount she would need to use 2 Demonic Infernos, so what I actually do is pick up that SP charger and immediately use it on her. Then I can use another Demonic Inferno.
Leave it to me. Level up.
And after this fight she'll always level up. So now I can use a couple more Demonic Infernos because she actually has 720 SP now. So now, unlike normal ending, I actually do need to do a couple more fights here.
It's my turn. I can go in.
I used the same approach on the Grand Doggo as I did in the tutorial.
Let's get serious, everyone. I need to calm
But
myself. Where's the patient? I can't
this
wait.
fight is a little different because
Here's
the enemies don't stand quite as close together as they do in the other fights, so I can't really use Demonic Inferno effectively. Either way, I got a Horsebird Wing, which is a good thing, because it's kind of RNG whether I get the drops that I need. The drops that I need are 2 Radisher Leaves, 2 Horsebird Wings, and 1 more Grand Jelly. I got a Grand Jelly guaranteed from the first fight I did.
Please be nice.
I don't think I have enough Radisher Leaves yet though, so I'm going to keep fighting the radishes. I'll check now. I don't have any right now. That is bad. I'm going to have to wait around for the radishes to respawn. I guess I can take this opportunity to grab the notes. Hold on. Just a second. You'll just hear some intermittent pauses while the page is loading for my notes. But yeah, I need to fight the radisher until I get the drops here. This isn't really something I can proceed without having. Shouldn't be too long though, because normally this fight has 2 radishes and not just 1. I'm getting pretty unlucky to have it keep having 1.
I can fight too.
And there we go.
It's
Okay,
my
now I've
turn.
loaded the notes properly, so I shouldn't need any more pauses.
Let's keep
Okay, I got the 2 radisher leaves, so the quest is over. I've finished both quests. I've got all the drops I need for now, so I can leave. And the notes are ready to go for now. I definitely preferred New Game speedruns of NEP at first, but... I mean, I definitely preferred New Game Plus, but... New Game has taken my interest more often lately. I mean, I still like to optimize New Game Plus as much as possible, but... It just seems like it has less capacity to be optimized at this point, and New Game has more potential to be interesting. Anyway, I need to pick up a couple of plans here for change items,
Okay.
and then I can enter the next boss fight. The viral tulips here are actually a really strong enemy in Rebirth 2.
I can fight
They are
too.
kind of a
It's my
pushover in
turn.
Mark 2, but in Rebirth 2 they do a ton of damage. Like, yeah, you can see Netgear died immediately, which is kind of expected, but still bad. I'm gonna try and hit as many as I can at once. Okay, I got 3 at once,
My
cool.
turn. Let's keep this up. It's time
And
to
now I'm
work.
doing one more grind for the time being. I need to get...
Okay, I'll do my best. Leave it to me.
I need to get either 2 piranha plant drops or 2 spider drops to be done for now.
Okay, let's go.
And I also want to level up Netgear a tiny bit. Because she died to the previous boss battle. And that lost her a bit of experience.
Let's keep this up.
And I just managed to get 0 drops from 4 enemies, which is really unlucky.
It's time to depart.
But yeah, I just keep pushing on. Keep using Demonic Inferno.
Don't be too hard on me. So, who wants to get beaten first?
And now I've gotten 0 drops from 9 enemies. This is getting pretty stupid at this point.
Let's do our best.
But I guess I do get slightly higher levels out of this. For all the pretty much nothing that it matters.
I can fight too. So, who wants to get beaten first? Who needs to get
Okay, I got 1 of each. That doesn't really help me. But it is a start.
Okay, let's go. I guess I'll take you on.
Okay, 2 more spiders, so hopefully I can get 1 more web here.
Let's level
Okay, I got both. I actually ended up getting both the piranha petals and the spider webs at the same time. Pretty typical that. But now I'm done with grinding until the middle of...
this.
until a bit through chapter 2. So I'm going to move on to the first boss fight. The first actual boss fight. First I give Netgear a little bit of equipment. And now I can enter this boss fight and not really have any trouble. This is the first battle with Underling, otherwise known as Linda. She is not a very hard boss in this game in general. Really the OP bosses in this game are when you fight the enemy CPUs. Other bosses don't have quite the same stats. But yeah, this one's a 1v1 between Netgear and HDD and Underling.
Is it my turn already? I need to
But
be
in order to
very
beat Underling, all I have to do is
I need to be
spam
very-
skills
All right. Is it my turn already? I'm
from
gonna-
behind.
It's my turn. All right. Is it my turn already? Not yet. I can't lose. Yes.
We used to do only combos on that fight and it took a lot longer, but I'm able to finish her off with just my SP for Mirage Dances. So it goes by pretty quickly. Hold on, I'll just put it in that slot. So yeah, I just don't want to save it over any of the files I need to load if I get a game crash at some point. Like I said, if I get a crash and I haven't saved in a while, I will load a file that I made before the run, so that the run can actually finish.
It's time to depart.
Also, I forgot to get something, so I need to go and get it first. Which does mean I have to take a slightly lengthy trip out of this dungeon, but oh well. Anyway, now I can get weaken enemies, which is why I was grinding items earlier.
Time to depart.
And also activate 2 harvest shifts so that I can get some drops that I need later.
Please be nice. So, who wants to get beaten first?
And with weaken enemies I can start doing grinding here. I got 1 green plate, I will take that for now and move on. I could... The item I'm actually looking for in this grind is cardboard.
What's this?
But if I get green plates, I can use them to get cardboard easier later on. So if I can just get 2 green plates, that's the easiest way to get cardboard as a drop. So now is the second battle with Underling. Pretty damn quickly after the first one.
I hope I can win. I'm gonna ugly up that within my little face of yours. Is it my turn already? It's my turn. All
Because
right.
she's guarding, I'm just going to use a couple of combos.
Is it my turn? Oh, you're
But
right.
after that I just spam skills.
Is it my turn? Damn it!
Now you really wouldn't think this is a new game run considering how easy these bosses are, but New Game Plus is I mean, this game is just one of the easier Neptune games in general. until Sega Hard Girls came along, it was the fastest game as well. Apart from, obviously, producing perfection. But yeah, this is like one of the easier Neptune games released. Certainly one of the easier RPGs. Turn-based RPGs. So, nothing is going to be too difficult, but I will point out when I actually reach some difficult fights.
Let's do our best.
And one good point about this game is that most of the loot in the treasure chest is actually kind of useful.
What's this?
So I will be picking up quite a lot of treasure chests during the run.
What's this?
And they're also in decent positions as well. Not to mention all the boss drops are guaranteed, which was a huge troll in the original Mark II game, because the boss drops weren't guaranteed. Anyway, I can upload some of the equipment. Upgrade, rather. Hold on, yeah.
Let's do our best.
I can upgrade some of my equipment, not all of it. There is no new weapon for Netgear, for example. Hold on, let me just check something. I only have one Grand Jelly, okay. So, I need to get one more Grand Jelly and one more Horsebird Wing. Because I have Harvest Shift on, I can guaranteed get the Horsebird Wing by checking a particular drop point in this dungeon. But I need to get a Grand Jelly, and the only way I can do that is by fighting that thing over there. So what I'm going to do is save, and if I don't get the drop then I'll reload and fight it again until I do get it.
Let's get serious, everyone.
So hopefully this doesn't take too many tries. Okay, we got it first try, so that's fine. And now I got my Horsebird Wings as well.
It's time to depart.
Now I just need one final item. Because I've harvest shifted this dungeon, I can just go up here and grab it from a drop point as well. So yeah, there's my final spider web. I needed one more to unlock a dungeon later in the run. So now I have the means to unlock that dungeon. And coincidentally there happens to be a boss in here now. So it just works out well that I can finish gathering the materials before I start this fight.
Okay, I'll
This
do
is
my best. It's my turn.
one of the hardest bosses in the game in terms of stats. He has way higher stats than your party does.
I'm sorry. I'll be serious now.
His stats are high enough that it's actually worth using combos a bit on him.
It hurts. Leave it. Where's the patient? So, who wants? I need to be.
So I'll spam combos until...
Where's the patient? It's my turn. Is it my turn already?
I'll spam combos until his guard break bar is low, and then
So, I can't wait. It's my turn. So,
I will finish him off with skills, hopefully.
I need to be.
And I want to keep my characters close enough together that I can heal them, but not close enough so that they get hit by AoE.
My turn.
It's just a kind of grindy slow fight.
Where's the patient? Leave it to me. Where's the patient? I need to be. It's my turn. I can't wait. Leave it to me. I need to be. It's my turn. If you're hurt.
I guess I started a little early with the skills there, but that's fine. Okay, good fight.
Rebel.
So yeah, I had to use a bunch of combos there, but I won't have to use too many more. Because there aren't any bosses that are all that tanky after this. At least not to the point of having to use that many combos.
Let's do our best.
So this fight is normally slow just because all of them
So,
normally
who
defend
wants
turn
to get
1.
beaten first? It's my turn. I can go anytime.
And they also resist physical
Where's the
damage.
patient? Who
In this
should
case,
I
one of them
choose?
didn't defend, but that's fairly rare,
Leave it
honestly.
to me.
Now that they're not defending, I can use Demonic Inferno to do way more damage to them.
Just calm myself. It's my turn. Leave it to me. I can't wait. I need to come. Who should I? Leave it to me. If you're hurt, leave.
Okay, and that's them done.
Level up.
The M3 customs have a lot of health, but pretty much no guard break bar, so they get guard broken almost immediately. So we randomly just unlocked mid company there for whatever reason, but it doesn't have any use until chapter 3, so ignore it.
It's time to
And now
depart.
it's time to go back to Rebirth Resort. Oh, I was meant to do some shopping first, so I'll go and do that.
Okay.
So Red is actually a decent character who will stay around in the party for a very long time. So I need to give her some combos.
Leave it to me.
Hopefully I get another green plate here. I did. So now I can grind the cardboard that I need using those 2 green plates to implement another harvest shift. But first up is another boss.
Prepare to meet your fate.
Now this boss is annoying just because it has skill seal,
My turn.
more so than anything
I
else.
can go
It
anytime.
uses
I'm
still
ready.
skill.
I'll be serious.
It uses attacks that can skill seal you quite often.
It's my turn. I can't
Also, I
wait.
forgot that IF was so
It's
low
my
on
turn.
XP.
It's my turn.
It isn't really
Where's
worth
the
Compa
It's my turn.
ever attacking
Leave it
this
to me.
boss.
Who should I? If you're
So I'll
hurt,
just
my
defend
turn.
with her when she still has 5 health, although
Leave
I
it to
didn't
me.
quite read that right,
If you're hurt,
and I let her attack.
it's my turn.
Okay, Sea Hunter's down.
I'm good.
That boss is only... any difficult if he starts skill sealing everyone, and he only skill sealed Compa. So now I'm going to get the rest of my cardboard. Which means I need another harvest shift plan, that is that one.
Okay, let's go.
And now if I just pick up this point here, I get my 2 cardboard, okay.
What's this?
So now I've got the 2 cardboard, that's fine.
Let's do our best.
I can move on to the boss. Or at least onto the next dungeon.
What's this?
In this dungeon, I actually deliberately go a long way around so that I can grab all these chests.
What's
This is the one NEP speedrun where it's actually worth equipping CPU parts, because the CPU parts in this game are absolutely busted. Oh, sorry, I'm lying. It's also worth doing it in Victory and Rebirth 3. But this one I think has the most OP processor parts of all the games. These Frost ones that I'm picking up are pretty good, but I'll get some even better ones later that give me about 200 strength. In any case, I did just pick them up, I need to equip them. And I also need to save. Not because this boss is any difficult, but just because of the usual reason about having to deal with crashes. If the game crashes and I have saved relatively recently, then I'll just reload the save.
So, who wants to get beaten first? It's my
Okay,
turn.
none of them defended, but they're really fast spread out.
Do my best. I can't wait.
So
It's my turn.
I'm not going to be able to
Where's the
kill them more than one round, but they are not very
patient?
difficult.
Go anytime. Red's turn. Leave it to me. Where's the patient? Who should... level up.
The Taikon cats are kind of like the bosses before them. Or they're kind of like some of the other scrub battle bosses where they have like no guard break bar, but quite a bit of health. And now it's Uni. This used to be one of the hardest fights in the run, but now it's pretty free.
Everyone, lend me your strength. I can go any... I'm sorry.
I use HDD to get my
It's my turn. I'll end. It's
higher
my turn.
stats with the
I'll
processor
end
parts.
it. I need to be as good as my sister. Next.
And then I just spam Mirage Dance from behind and she should die.
It's my turn. Is that
There we go.
not enough?
Just 5-turn fight, easy enough. Or rather 6-turn because I have to heal once. And now I finally have some more memory, so I can add this dungeon.
Time to depart.
And the only reason I needed to go through all the drop sequence to add this dungeon is so that I can get the plan to make eject buttons. And I just did that. So now I have that plan for later. Don't know what I'm doing, but whatever. We'll get to the actual Conquest a bit later on in the run. The run will start fairly similar to an any percent run though. Just to reiterate, this is no DLC, pretty much no grinding apart from where it's necessary, and new game run, so this is as hard as the game is meant to be. So far it makes it seem like it's not very difficult. But that's just Rebirth 2 for you. It's not a very difficult game overall. If you try to do Conquest ending in Mark 2, new game, it will take forever.
I can be tough too. For the DNF, it's my turn.
Okay, if I get lucky then Waruchi will stay near the Fenrir, and I can hit them both with IF. But usually they will separate.
I'll be serious now. I can't wait. I can't wait. It's my turn.
And when they do separate, I focus on the Fenrir, because he has a much smaller guard break bar.
Leave it to me. I need to be as good as my sister. It's
Than
my
IF, than Waruchu. I will never actually guard break Waruchu. He has like 20,000 guard points. Okay, I got Virus, but it's late on in the fight, so it doesn't really matter.
It's my turn.
That fight is fairly well known, or this game is fairly well known for having way more status effects than the other Rebirth games. That's the only way in which it really becomes trolly, if it keeps status U. I mean, yes, the weaken enemies plan does make this game even easier, obviously. And for a speedrun, I'm not exactly going to turn my nose up at that, but it just isn't a very difficult game anyway. The enemy stats in this game are way lower than any of the other Rebirths, just in general. Now, one thing that I am going to do that slightly varies from the usual run, or from the any percent run at this point, is to view the first two scenes for the Conquest ending. Talk to the Slayer, and also to the evil Mama in Louis. I need to view 3 scenes in Chapter 2 to make the Conquest ending possible to get. And then I need to do some shopping. I will save again.
Okay, let's go.
Really just for the sake of it at this point. Coming up is the first battle against enemy CPUs that's actually difficult, because there are 2 of them.
What's this?
We will get to murder them later on in the game, of course.
What's this?
But first off, I'm going to do equip that new stuff that I just bought. And I'm going to actually change my formation now. Now the original route for this game didn't bunch all the characters together in the formation, but I've decided that for consistency's sake it's worth doing, even if it means I take slightly more hits. But yeah, I just equipped my new gear, and first an easy battle with Underling, run behind her, use HDD.
If you're hurt, leave it to me. Who wants to get? I need to be as good. You better be. Red's turn. Where's the patient? Leave it to me. It's my turn.
IF still only gets to use 2 skills, which is a bit of a shame, but oh well.
Is it my turn already?
Now that she's solo, I'm just going to attack her.
I can't lose.
So there's the warm-up for the real boss battle coming next. against Rom and Ram. Now this is actually a really hard boss fight, and it's kind of RNG dependent as well. So first off, I'm going to use a strength booster.
Leave it to me.
I'm going to try and bunch up my party so that they don't separate. But they can still decide to separate anyway if they want to. I think they've been okay this time, but it's hard to tell sometimes. Okay, they're close enough that I can hit them, so that's fine. Hold on. Do that.
Who should I play with?
So I'm just trying to kill them with power combos as quickly as possible. And Compa really can't do any damage here. So all I'm going to do with her is heal. Because Compa does magic damage, and these two have absurd mental defense.
I can't wait.
So all she's really going to do is heal and defend.
I'm okay. Where's the patient?
I will do a heal there though.
Leave it to
Okay, they're almost dead.
turn already?
I'm going to use skills to make sure they die.
Red turn.
I haven't seen a paralyze on this fight before.
Believe
But-
it.
It went relatively smoothly because they stayed bunched together. If they don't stay together, then it can take a lot longer. But they treated me relatively nicely. So I get actually a bunch of level ups from that fight as well, because their experience gain is really jacked up. So now I'm about level 16 and I'm not so underleveled as I was before. But now I have to deal with the game's first wall of cutscenes in Louis, where I have to select about 6 cutscenes in a row, with no real gaps. And unfortunately this split just turns into absolute boredom, and mash the A button and the X button, or the square button, X button, whatever you want to call it. On the PC ports, the net games of course assume that you're using something like an Xbox controller, but I've also played a bunch of them on the PlayStation as well, so I find myself using both button names interchangeably. But all the prompts will be for like the A button and the X button when you see them in this game. Netgear finally brings an end to this set of cutscenes by rescuing Rom's pencil.
Let's do our best.
Well, I just kid, there is one more cutscene. And now I loot this dungeon for a bunch of treasure chests, just like the one before it.
What's this?
These items just end up being quite useful in random points in the run. None of them have necessarily a set use, but now I'm going to do some random grinding, which seems a little odd, but later on there's going to be a couple of quests that require me to get certain drops,
I found you.
and I can
Leave it to
start
me.
farming the drops now. And of course it's more efficient to do it now than it is to do it later.
I'll do my best.
The enemies do take a while to die right now though,
Sorry. Leave it to.
and they can deal a bit of damage.
Who should I play with? Easy to-
So I got bad luck, as usual, for drops in a marathon. I've had none of the drops I need so far. I also picked up a gather point that had a chance of giving me a drop I needed, but I didn't get any. But now I do have some new gear. Again, I'm going to save only because I want to not have the game crash, or be able to recover from a game crash faster. Not because I actually need to save for these boss fights, they're not all that threatening. Going through this, if the game didn't crash, then it would be pretty safe to go through this run without ever saving, even a
Who
marathon.
wants to get beaten first?
Well, maybe you would save before Rom and Ram, but that would be about it.
I'll
They're
do
just
my
really
best.
easy
I'm
fights,
sorry. I'll be serious now.
for the most part. Yeah, okay, I finally got
It
them.
hurts. Leave it to me. It's my turn. Who should I?
And they go down relatively quickly.
So, who wants to get beat? I'm gonna.
but I did have some problems trying to get Netgear to target both of them.
Prepare to meet your fate.
Now this fight is
My turn.
technically meant for you to
Who should I
lose
play
it,
with?
but the stats on this boss are actually not very high,
Calm my- I'm
so
sorry.
it would take me
I'll be
absolutely
serious
ages
now.
to deliberately lose it.
I can't
And while you
wait.
would like to do that in a speedrun, like
Who
deliberately
wants
lose
to get taken
fights,
first? If you're hurt,
it's just
it's
not
my
worth it
turn.
in this case.
Who
It's
should
worth it
I
for me to win it
play?
instead.
I can't wait. It's my turn. It's my turn.
And
It's my
IF finally
turn.
gets to use free SP skills before she runs out of SP,
It's my turn.
but the fight is already nearly over.
It's my turn.
And there we go. So yeah, that's the so-called unwinnable Killer Sheen fight. It's over in about 10 seconds, with us winning it instead of losing it. This game otherwise doesn't really go in for unwinnable fights other than the intro tutorial. I suppose there's also magic later on, which I actually do lose, but she just has really high jacked up attacking stats.
It's time to depart.
So now I come in here for the material grinding. I guess you could call this a quest in its own way, but it's really just part of the story instead of being an actual guild quest. Fight a couple of bosses that are like any other scrub enemy boss. Tons of health, no guard break, so they guard break pretty much immediately. Or no guard points rather. They can, this guy can do a ton of damage though.
Leave it to me.
Like he might just randomly kill a
Who
character
should
at some
I
point.
play with? I can go anytime. I'm sorry. I'll be serious now.
I was considering buffing,
Where's
but
the
I don't think I need
patient?
to.
It's my turn. Is it my turn already? Red's turn. I can't wait. It's my turn. It's my turn. Who should I play?
Yeah, he didn't. He has one really damaging move.
I'm gonna be invincible.
I'm gonna save here, because it's been a while since I last
Okay,
saved.
let's go.
So that fight's pretty simple. And this one is kind of similar. The second material boss, except this one can skill seal you. Otherwise it's roughly the same fight as the last one.
Leave it
So,
to me.
okay, he's skill sealed Compa, that is
Who
the best
should
character
I
to get
play
skill
with?
sealed.
I need to processor unit set. I can't wait. So, who wants to get? It's my turn. Who should I? If you're hurt. So, who?
So yeah, straightforward enough. Goes down pretty quickly because of being able to guard break it so fast. And now back to Louis, where we can actually recruit a new character for the first time in a while. So we recruit Broccoli, who actually becomes useful immediately. Why do I have a scene here? What is that? Oh, I didn't view the Evil Mama scene. I'll view it now. It doesn't matter when I view it, as long as I view it after the last station one, and I already did the last station one. So good thing I did that now. Anyway. IF leaves the party immediately because it becomes more useful for her to give EXP to Netgear. And we set up Broccoli to hit ice attacks.
Let's do our best.
She's the first one that can really deal elemental damage outside of IF being able to do fire. But the next boss is weak to ice. In fact, the next two bosses are weak to ice, so it's convenient that we get a character like that at just the right moment. I mean, it's not like she does a ton of damage. Netgear and Red still probably do more damage overall, but she's still a bit better than IF. And it allows me to put IF behind Netgear so that Netgear gains more experience. Netgear being the most important character in this run.
Please be nice. I can't wait, you.
She's also a bit higher level than my other characters at this point. Anyway, I keep running off without doing this.
Need to processor unit set.
After the Rom and Ram fight,
I can't wait.
Red learned a
It's my turn.
buff to other characters' strength and it's AoE, so it's really, really good.
Where's the patient?
Yeah, I try and use my skills from behind or the sides as much as possible,
It's my turn.
because it makes them do more damage and also makes them more accurate. So that fight is over, but before I actually move on to the next boss fight, I'm going to do a little more grinding for the drops from earlier. I kind of screwed that up, hold on. There we go. I just want IF pick in the party. Okay, I got one plummet piece. The loot I need is 2 plummet pieces and 2 spectacle frames.
Leave it to me. I need to calm myself.
And the spectacle frames I get from these monsters. Okay, I have both spectacle frames now, so that's pretty good. I only need to farm for the one remaining planet piece when I come back here later. And I'll save again. Again, not a threatening boss, just saving for the crash. I will keep saying that and it will be true every time.
I wonder if I can win. It's a little scary.
So, Rock Lee can just get in some quick ice attacks. It would help if I remembered to actually do the buff.
I'm sorry. I'll be serious now.
But yeah, I'll save Nick Gear's SP until she can get behind him.
I need to be as good as my sister. It's my turn. I can't wait. I can't. I need to be as good. Red's turn. Is it my turn already? If you're hurt, is it? It's my turn. I need to be. Who should I?
That's fine. I'm just gonna let her be dead.
I can't wait.
As long as he doesn't kill another character, but she won't.
Red's turn.
Okay, cool. I don't need that experience on Compa. It's not all that much experience. But yeah, I guess occasionally CPU Breaker has decent attack and can pull something like that off. She only just died though. Compa is still made of toilet paper defense-wise, which is why she gets like the equipment that raises her HP. So that will do it for Louis for now, mostly anyway. I need to go back there one more time in order to get the quest complete so that I can actually travel to Leanbox, because Underling and Warachu kind of destroy one of the ships from this company, and the other one needs parts to be repaired. And thankfully it's a lot easier to find the quests here than it is in New Game Plus. They're just right there.
Okay, let's go.
So I already have one of them complete. I just need to scroll the notes there, so it lagged a little bit, but yeah. I already have one quest complete, but one of the 2 quests, or one of the 3 quests is a kill quest. So I can't really preemptively do it.
So, who wants to get beaten first? Should I?
And the Lion Vaders are just about strong enough to survive a Demonic Inferno.
Stronger. Got you, Mew.
I need to kill 5 of the Lion Vaders, 4 of the
Who wants to get
Tetris blocks, or 3 of the Tetris blocks,
closer now, Mew?
and I need to get 1 more planet piece. I can go and pick up that drop point that I picked up a couple of times earlier to have a 50-50 chance at getting one. I did not, so now I need to go and find another plummet to fight, so that I can actually get a chance at getting the drop from the monster itself. You haven't seen the monster itself yet, but here it is.
Annihilate.
The Mario pipe.
Leave it to me. Should I play?
Okay, I didn't get the piece, so now I go and fight this avatar here, which normally has 2 heads and 2 pipes,
It's my turn.
although it will take a bit of time to take out because it spawns so far away from me.
Go do my. I'm sorry. So, I can go anytime. It's my turn.
Okay, I got only Stellar Frames, so now I just need to wait for respawns. I think I might be able to fight this treacherous block up here for 1 more chance of the pipe, but I think otherwise I just have to wait for respawns. So this is pretty bad luck on the pipes. Okay, there's one more pipe, so I get one more chance.
So, who wants to get beaten first?
And we'll do that.
I can go anytime.
Okay, I got the plant piece, so we're done. Just before I had to do any waiting. So yeah, I killed 5 Lion Invaders, 3 Tetris blocks, got 2 plant pieces and 2 stellar frames, and that allows me to repair the boat somehow. Not sure how, but that's how it works. So, Leanbox is fairly cutscene driven for quite a long time,
Okay, let's go.
but in between the cutscenes I do get to enter this dungeon, although I don't get to do any battles in it.
What's
I'm just
this?
picking up a couple of extra useful chests here before continuing the cutscene list. Or the cutscene barrage. Whoops. Again, I clicked out of the game by mistake. I can use the mouse wheel to scroll my notes without having to click out of the game, but sometimes I just forget. And I accidentally click out of the game for half a second. Also, if you try to use the mouse wheel to scroll notes while you're in a cutscene in this game, it actually makes the cutscene pause, so I have to do it whenever I'm in a dungeon or in a battle. One more save for the crash, because we haven't saved in a while. And now we get to view the second wall of cutscenes, the Leanbox wall of cutscenes, which is, I think, even more cutscenes than it was in Louis. I think there's something like 7 you have to skip here. And they take quite a long time as well, because you have to go through Phoebe's first concert. But after this, we get to do one of the more interesting boss fights, which is at least a plus, because I've suddenly gone through quite a long segment of the game without doing a single battle, so I actually end up quite underleveled. And Rebirth 2 actually reveals some of its difficulty for once. There aren't too many places where it's actually going to be difficult, but this is one of them. The build up to the fight is still quite long, so I'll explain it when I actually get there, but basically I have to go out of my way to get some good gear to make this fight really winnable. It's not all that far out of my way, but it still looks like a long detour compared to everything else I do in this run, where I'm not really going too far out of my way for anything. Anyway, there's the best dungeon music in the game in this dungeon, but first it gets interrupted by this cutscene. After that I'll probably just shut up for a little bit and enjoy the music.
What's this? What's this? What's this? What's this?
Now, usually I would pick up those chests at slightly different times, but because I want to save before the boss battle in this run, obviously, I'm going to pick it up earlier. At a slightly slower time to do it. Anyway, this is the final Conquest ending cutscene in Chapter 2, so now I've viewed all 3.
Can I decide? Let's do our best.
And I can begin preparations for this boss battle. Now, I'm going to actually go through 2 boss battles, and both of them has 2 enemies. They'll be against Underling and Warachu. The thing about this boss battle is that they have a really high amount of total health. The first battle they have almost 100,000 health between them, and then the second one they have even more than that. So it's going to be a tricky fight to deal with. Well, not that. Hold on, actually I need to do something else as well. So yeah, now what I've done is equipped Netgear with some really overpowered CPU parts that give her about 200 extra strength, so that she can be the main damage dealer in this fight. And I also upgraded all the gear as much as I possibly can. You do get a lot of money in this game, to be fair. Okay, so the enemies grouped up quite a lot, so good start. In this fight you really want the enemies to group up, so you can use power combos to take them out.
Okay, it's my turn.
Getting debuffs is bad, but usually not awful.
I can't wait.
Hold on.
I need to be
You can
as
do
good
that
as my
to get both of
sister.
them at once. And now I just want to hit both of the enemies at once as much as
You
possible.
better be- If you're hurt, leave it to me.
I'll keep doing that.
Is it my turn already? Is it, bro? It's my turn. If you're hurt,
So I should just be able to mash the square button for the most part.
should I? I can't wait. I'm gonna-
They can
Is it my
use a
turn
kind of
already?
nuke attack when they're at low
Should
health,
I can't wait. Is
but
it, bro?
it's almost over now.
I'm gonna. It's my turn. Damn it!
Okay, the first phase is really easy compared to the second one, but it still went relatively well compared to how it can go. I need the second one to go that well, hopefully.
I wonder if I can win. Better be prepared.
Okay, they're still sort of grouped up, but they skill sealed Compa, and they're not all that close together actually, so this isn't a great start.
Should
I will, as usual, buff.
I'll do my. I'm
I'll
sorry.
HDD.
I'll be serious now.
I might still be able to get them both at once. I
Where's the
can,
patient?
cool. Okay, where's that anti-seal? Here it is.
Better be pompous. Red's turn.
So
If you're hurt,
that ended up being pretty good in the end. Just defend actually.
need to be as good. I can't wait.
So I can hit both of them at once. I just need to position myself correctly.
Where's the patient? Red's turn. It's my turn. I can't wait. Okay. If you're hurt.
And now that I've got XE level 1, I
Should
can
I?
do a bit more damage on each turn.
Alright, it's my turn. It's
Well, shit. No, that's fine.
I'm good. I can't wait. It's my turn. Okay, it's my turn.
Broccoli took quite a lot of damage
Where's
there,
the
but
patient? Oh. For the Is it
all these blowback
Broccoli's
attacks.
turn? Who should I? It's my turn. I can't wait. For the All right, Red's turn. Gotcha. If
Okay,
you're
now
hurt,
it's only
leave it to
underling,
me.
so it's pretty easy from here.
All right, is it my turn already? Red's turn.
I'll just do this to make sure that she dies quickly.
It's my turn. Damn it!
Yeah, just install Francoface and you can get custom emoticons in this channel of all the NEPs. So, okay, those were the final bosses of Chapter 2, if I remember to mash the text anyway. So yeah, the Francoface Z emoticons, it's a extension for your web browser made by Dan Salvato and Sir Sendek. And then we have a bunch of emoticons made by some cool people like Z-Fresh himself and Narodesu Naro. And also Green Z-Saber has kind of filled in the gaps and made emoticons of characters that didn't really have any good ones, like Ram and Romwink. But overall I think we've reached a pretty solid set of Francoface Z. Yeah, 5PV joins the party now. She's actually kind of useful. Just because she does magic damage and she has an actual skill that does magic damage, unlike Compa, and she actually has decent int, unlike IF. So I actually do make use of 5PV for a few battles now. But before I actually enter this dungeon, I'm going to gather one of the most important characters in the whole run. This being Cave. Cave is perhaps the second best character in this run other than Netgear. Anyway, I'll do some shopping and then I'll head back to
Time to depart.
Severed Dimension, the new dungeon that just got unlocked.
What's this?
Gather a bit of loot. A little bit, not a lot. There aren't really any weapons available yet, there will be soon. But first I need to take down one more boss fight. I may have missed a chest there, but none of the chests here are all that important. But yeah, we'll do some party updates now. It's finally time to get rid of some of the characters. 5PB and 5PB and Cave actually both joined my party because they're better than Broccoli and Compa are at this point in the game. Because I beat the hardest boss, that being Underling and Waruchu, I no longer really need heals. Now I can just start being way more aggressive.
Check the CPUs.
So, Cave actually has an XE drive at this point in the game, and I could use it, but
What song do you want to hear?
it just ends up not being quite worth it to use it yet.
Be serious now. I'll finish you this
What I do
time.
instead
My
is
turn.
spam skills,
What song do you want to hear?
which will be the modus operandi for a little longer.
It's my turn. It's my turn. It's my turn. It's my turn. Finally, I need to
Unfortunately,
be
this boss can debuff my strength, so he can slow down the fight just by kind of random luck in debuffing the wrong characters. But it's still a fairly fast fight. And now it's finally time to begin the quest to get a candidate to join us other than Netgear. Of course we have to rescue them first, because they've got themselves into a bit of a shares pickle. But first up there'll be a kind of distraction boss fight. That being of course Waruchu, because he's always the distraction. Kind of throws you off the main plot of the game.
to
Yeah, I do get to get some new weapons now. They unlock immediately after that last boss battle. So I upgrade weapons for both Netgear and 5PB, who only used her original weapon for one battle. And now I fight Pirachu, Warachu, whatever you want to say.
Wrong, but okay, I'll try my best.
Finally, my turn.
My
I
turn.
employ the same strategies I did in that previous battle. We kind of stand still
I'll do
on the
my
first
best,
turn,
Officer Unit. Set.
I'll finish you this turn.
Is it my turn?
so that
already?
we can
Okay.
get all the attacks in from behind. That can happen.
It's my
Red can
turn.
die. She's kind of just the bait.
It's my turn. For the
It will slow us down a little though,
Finally, my
It's my turn.
but not a whole lot, because he doesn't have that much health.
level.
And I didn't even really need to arrive red there, I just did so that I don't lose experience. There should be about an hour and 15 minutes left for this run. Probably a bit less than that, but around an hour and 15 minutes to the ending of Conquest. And then we'll get to go into the gauntlet of spin-offs, the action games for example, which are actually really good runs in my opinion, since you're not spending as much time in cutscenes, and you have to have quite good mechanical skills to be able to execute them quickly. But yeah, first off we have to deal with Conquest, and there's still plenty of Conquest to go. So let's not get too distracted just yet.
Okay, let's go. What's this?
Grab that equipment, it's just very slightly useful. And now it is finally time to use XE drives for the first time in the game. Like I said, Cave had one as soon as I recruited her, but now it's actually worth using. So what we'll do is set up everyone's rush combos, apart from Red because she doesn't really need them. And I'll give Cave this new drop that I just got, the Hades Bangle, because it increases strength by quite a lot. And we'll go and fight Roman Ram for the second time. It's less important this time that they group up, but it is still kind of important. So hopefully we get good RNG still. Okay, so the point of this fight is that I'm going to try and use a EXE drive from Cave
Here's the
on
opener
both
of
of them
the
at
final
once
fight.
to finish them off.
Now,
I'll finish you this turn.
Again, just defend with Cave turn
what song do
1,
you want to hear? I can go anytime.
and then
I'm sorry.
start setting up for the kill.
Okay,
It's my turn.
You don't quite get enough EXE in one turn to finish them off,
what song do you want? Who should I play with?
and just defend I suppose.
Finally,
Okay.
my turn.
I can
There we go.
fight.
And that is Rowan Rand number 2.
I'm Rhino.
You just absolutely murder them with Cave's EXE. Because it's a physical EXE, so their magic defense doesn't matter, and it's AoE. Also, I cancelled 5PB's combo 1 early because her EX finisher does knockback, and I don't want knockback in this scenario when they're standing right next to each other.
Use.
Finally.
Okay, so
my
Trick
turn.
here, he doesn't have a lot of...
Red's turn. I'll do
The thing about Trick is that he just doesn't have a lot of health.
I'll have you listen to my song.
Finally,
It's my turn.
I suppose I'll do this.
If I can't...
I'll have you listen to... Who should I play?
I
Who should I play with?
I'll revive her, why not?
It's my turn. I need to calm myself.
I'll finish you this.
So, 2 EXEs and he's down easily enough. Sometimes you can kill him with 1 if you get really high damage rolls. But yeah, trick is done. And now we actually get to recruit Rom and Ram. Don't use them quite yet because the next boss is a weird fight. As you may be aware, it's actually the hardest fight in the entire Mark II speedrun. But in this game it's one of the easiest fights because Netgear is just so OP in this game. But yeah, I will go into mid-company to get the first uni event, but I'm also going to accept a couple of random quests. The reason for accepting these won't become apparent until later,
I'll finish you this turn.
but it is important. Damn, I was trying to skip his turn now, but I will. So I complete that quest, easy enough. It's just an early level boss at this point.
What's this?
Oh, I was meant to do something else, but I'll do it now. That timing doesn't actually matter. So I need to recruit another optional character. Now I recruit Falcon. She is useful in Chapter 4. She would be useful earlier, but obviously I'm going into a 2v1 boss battle.
Time to depart.
Where she doesn't actually get to feature. Now I will fight a second random field boss. This is kind of preparation for share grinding later in the game.
I can fight too. Finally, my turn.
Who should I? It's my I'm gonna be invincible.
And now I'm quickly going to steal this Hades Bangle from Cave and give it to Netgear, so that I can take out the next fight faster. And of course it's Brave. We have to fight him with only Uni and Netgear.
Don't think you'll get out in one piece.
And Uni still has her old weapon, which means she doesn't do all that much
Leave it
damage.
to me. Time to get serious.
But thankfully Netgear is still OP. And what I can do is this.
Processor unit set. I need to be as good as my sister.
May my will
And have him chase the Netgear. He does 0 to her pretty much every turn,
My turn.
I will
You're with it. It's my turn.
show
because
me,
she resists fire and his element is fire.
show me your
It's my turn. Now.
I will
It's my turn.
perhaps.
That was a pretty
I
slow
should've
fight
used
against
the giant
Brave,
drill.
considering how easy he normally is.
I wish my life.
Because he managed to land his Vitality debuff relatively early. But yeah, the Strength Booster Z is just a really OP item on that fight, because it makes Netgear take pretty much no damage. Ever. Until he debuffs her again. So, next up is Judge, the actual battle against Judge, the only battle against Judge unless you do True Ending or Holy Sword Ending. Now this is actually a difficult boss. Not so much as I will approach it, but it does make me do quite a lot of menuing and equipment changes to make it go by quickly. So you could say it's difficult in that way, because if I didn't do all this preparation then it would be difficult. So now I'm going to change pretty much the whole party. Hold on. Yeah. No, what am I doing? Yeah, that's right. So the reason I want Falcom is because she has an 8-hit rush combo mainly. And Falcom gets the Hades Bangle and also a hitting patch, I suppose. Now I'll save because I don't get a save point before this next boss. But yeah, I basically renovated the whole party and set up for what is not all that difficult of a boss battle if it goes well. He can occasionally pull out some pretty strong attacks, but Judge isn't normally that big a deal. In Mark II, if you don't have a certain piece of equipment, you just cannot beat this battle in the speedrun, because he will always one-shot your entire party on turn 1. You need to be able to outspeed him with at least one character to be able to beat him at all.
Don't think
But
you'll
in
get
this
out
battle
in
it's
one
nowhere near
piece.
that polarizing.
Bring it on!
I won't let you go.
So
Leave it to me.
what I'll do is
I can go anytime. Processor unit set. What should I do?
Bring it!
Is it my turn already?
basically set up
Leave it to me.
Netgear to be a tank,
What should I do? My turn.
and the others will
Bring
build
it on.
EXE.
My turn. My turn.
Falcon will actually use the EXE.
I'll do this.
Bring it on!
I need
She's
to
got the strongest EXE at this point in the game. Not for very long, but
My turn.
I'll...
I need to be a. What should I?
Everyone!
My turn. I need to be a. My turn.
oh what? She's skill sealed. Defend.
Bring it on!
I won't lose. My turn. It's my turn.
I'll just do this. Okay.
This is unacceptable!
I've never seen skill seal in this fight before,
I can see.
but I guess it's the first time for everything. But yeah, he can also pull out an EXE drive of his own, which does a decent amount of damage. But didn't end up being that bad of a pattern. Retargeting Falcon was a bit annoying though. Okay, so that is chapter 4. That took about 3.5 minutes. Chapter 6 would be similar if I was on normal end, but since I am not on normal end it will be a lot longer. But yeah, chapter 5 is the longest chapter in this run.
Okay, let's go.
It's even longer than chapter 2, just because I do things that aren't actually related to the story. So, I'll be diverging from the game's main plot in about 10 more minutes, and beginning grinding. Unfortunately, because I'm doing Conquest ending, I need my shares to be in certain positions at certain times. And there is no real way to move shares without grinding. I am using what I think are the most efficient methods of moving shares, but there will still be a decent amount of share grinding involved in order to get our Conquest ending that we so desire. First up is this unwinnable battle. Well, technically you can win it quite easily, but she still does a ton of damage to you regardless, unless you're above the
You look great.
non-DLC level cap.
I won't lose. Good enough. I won't lose. Leave it to me. I can.
Unfortunately she used really low... She used some really low damage moves compared to her normal, so I had to do a ton of defending in order to get the fight over with. And now Neptune joins the party. She's pretty useful overall because she's a Planeptune character, but she's not all that useful yet because she doesn't have her EXE drive yet. Anyway, I just...
Okay, let's go.
all I do here is quickly clear a tutorial for later, and also buy some new equipment, and then into the next boss battle. We'll use the same strategy against this boss that we did against Judge, but it has way less
Don't
health,
think you'll get out in one piece.
so
For the deity do this gracefully.
It should just be simple enough.
My turn! I can go anytime! What should I do? I won't lose! I'll do...
It's simple enough that I'm not going to bother using HDD anyway.
For the I won't lose! I can go anytime! I need to do this! My turn! Accomplice! I need to my turn! Okay! I won't lose!
Well, that's bad. I'm just gonna...
Thanks for
I didn't mean to do that.
It's my turn! Take care of the
Let's
rest!
change back.
Leave it to me!
I don't even lose the boost. That's surprising.
Leave it to me! I have no regrets about my life!
I wanted to keep get experience, but then I accidentally switched. So yeah, whatever. Not a difficult fight. I was just not really paying attention. That was not the fastest way to get to my tomb, but it'll do. There's a couple of cutscenes now to open the path to the next dungeon. So there are going to be 2 more boss battles before the divergence from the normal end speedrun route.
Let's do our best!
Now these boss battles can actually kind of damage me quite hard, so I'm going to go slightly out of my way to get to a save point. Even though it's probably not all that necessary. And I can also get a new rush attack for Uni now that she's leveled up to level 40. That does 8 hits, so now I have both Falcom and Uni rushing for 8 hits. So yeah, I'm gonna go all the way over here to get to the save point. Normally this wouldn't be anywhere near worth it, but as this is a marathon and not a world record attempt, it is entirely worth it to do so. So first up is Underling.
Even without I'm gonna
Not
ugly
normally very difficult.
I'll do I won't lose! What should I... Leave it to me! I'm gonna I need to calm myself. What should I do?
Let's do this.
Let you... I'm gonna what should I do? I can go anytime! Leave it to me! I'll do this. You better be... What should I won't let you... I'll do... Leave it to me! Not yet!
Yeah, Underling goes down fairly quickly.
Lose! Yes.
That's almost the final battle with Underling. We get to do one more later on, which I'm sure some of you will enjoy. For now, we'll see goodbye to her for about another half an hour, which is... or more than half an hour, but about another 40 minutes, which is about as long as you go without fighting her in this game, honestly.
My turn.
And now Uni has her EXE drive, and it becomes our most powerful one.
I'll do my processor unit set. My turn. Is it my turn?
Unfortunately, Uni can't buff herself, so we have to use
What should I do?
ROM to do that, but now I can start using NGP.
My turn. What should I won't.
I believe it.
You're within my. Is it my turn already? What should I do? My turn.
I accept your will.
Talent.
And NGP just cuts completely through Brave. Kind of fitting that Uni gets to do all the damage to that character, considering what he is, or considering their association. Anyway, now I am actually going to stop following the story for now, because if I beat the next boss then I can't do my share grinding properly, oddly enough. I can finally get another weapon upgrade for Netgear. And now I go to Leanbox, where the plot continues and sends me to the next dungeon. I will enter the next dungeon, but I won't actually be beating Trick just yet. Trick will stay there for quite a while. We don't actually care about Histy, she can just go rot in a hole for a while.
It's time to depart.
We'll save her in about half an hour, if all goes well. if all doesn't go well, then it could be even longer.
Hmm? What's this?
But yeah, I'll make use of the save point. Now it's finally worth it to put in Neptune. It's still kind of questionable, but from now on I'm going to start changing my shares so Neptune becomes kind of effective. And she has enough CP at this point that I don't need to remove any attacks. And what I'll do is I'll save, and now we're going to go fight this guy.
What's this? I'm scared, but I won't run away. Leave it to me.
Now, doesn't really deal much damage, but it has a
I can go
lot of
anytime.
health and a really, really big chunk of regen. So
Healthy.
the only real way to take it out is to use XE drives, even though it's just a field boss. Oops, I need to get in range
I
here.
need to be as good as my sister. What should I
So I'll
do?
just build up the gauge to about level 2.
Now, is it my turn already? I need to do. It's my turn.
Okay, it's not worth doing that, yeah.
You're within my range.
I guess I can try and take it out with netgears, okay. Okay, I got the drops, so that's good. Then I talk to this chirper here. And now I have the Colosseum unlock plan, and I need that one drop that I just got to do it. And I also need to do life fragments. So, the most important part of Conquest ending, in terms of the speedrun, is that you need to get all 4 CPUs to be able to get the ending. You need to get all 4 CPUs first.
Time to depart.
And the thing about getting all 4 CPUs is that it requires you to move with the shares. So what I'm going to be doing now is a very, very, very repetitive share grind. It's not going to last all that long,
I'm a goddess
but
candidate
I
of
will
a
be killing the
week.
same field bosses over and over.
Okay, let's go.
First up, I'm going to get Leanbox's shares to 50%. And unfortunately, the most efficient way to get Leanbox's shares up is to
Going at full
actually give
power.
shares to
Let
Planetune
me
first
go.
and then move them
I
to
can go
Leanbox. So what I'll be doing is doing 2 quests at once. I also need some eject buttons, but yeah.
Let's go.
I'll be doing 2 quests at once. One of them will move shares from R4 to Planetune, and the other one will move those same shares from from Planetune to Leanbox.
Time to shine. My turn. It's time to depart.
And I need to do this a total of 12 times. But what I actually did earlier is, before the Brave battle, I already did 1 cycle. So this is already the 3rd cycle instead of being the 2nd.
You look pretty tough.
This is the longest single nation to do. The other 3 nations aren't going to be as bad. I'm also going to save like every few battles. And yeah, if you think that getting Conquest ending in this game is bad, then Mark II is much, much worse. And Vanilla is also bad for share grinding. We'll be seeing Vanilla true ending
Leave it to me. So I can't.
in like 4 or 5 hours. And that has a lot of share grinding itself.
Okay.
Of course the runners do have a good plan for it. But it will still take a while to unlock the CPUs in that game.
I'm scared, but my turn. I won't.
But yeah,
Finally level up, you. Okay, let's go.
in Vanilla, in Mark II, it's really, really easy to unlock the CPUs in comparison to this game, but then getting the 55% world shares for Planetune takes absolutely forever. But the CPUs you can get within a few minutes each. Whereas the CPUs are what takes the time in Rebirth 2. So I'm just working on Vert right now, then I'll get Blanc, then I'll get Noir, and then I will get the shares for Planetune.
I'll do this gracefully. I can go
power flowing from within.
Okay.
Mercifully, getting 55% on Planet Tune is actually pretty quick, and getting Louis to 50% is also pretty quick. Last station will take a while though. But this is by far the worst.
I won't.
Lean box is the worst.
I feel stronger now. It's time to depart.
This individual land takes about 10 minutes. And then the others are more like 5.
I'll
Each.
take care of you even without Sis. I can go anytime. I'm getting stronger.
Anyway, I'm at the halfway point. I'm going to save every 3
Okay,
sets of
let's
quests
go.
because this game is fun and crashes. This is way more paranoid than I would usually be, but I want to avoid having to load a save that I didn't make during the run, since it feels a bit dirty
It might.
to do that.
I need to.
Trying to go a little too fast on the menus though.
Let's do our best. I'll take care of you even without Sis. I can go.
You can see Lean Box's bar is slowly growing.
Okay.
I need to do 5 more,
Let's go.
5 more sets. Thankfully I do manage to get Lean Box to exactly 50% and not waste any. In general, things work out pretty kindly in terms of
You look pretty
not
tough.
wasting shares.
I can go. It's time to depart.
Also earlier on, I did all that work to get the plan for eject button. This is why. I need to use ejects to make this share grind anywhere near efficient.
Don't
And
think
I
you'll
need
get
way
out
more
of one
ejects than I can pick up off the ground.
I- Okay.
So
Let's
4
go.
more on Lean Box and then we'll get on to the next set.
I'm with everyone. I'll do this so gracefully.
That's the first time I've ever seen Fenrir survive 2 skills. The robot survives 2 skills quite often, but the Fenrir is really rare. It's kind of random if you critical hit them or not, and that's why they can survive
If I can win.
occasionally.
So okay.
Anyway, one
let's
final
go.
save during this particular share grind, with 3 more sets to go.
Time to shine. I'll do this gracefully. Let's do our best. I gotta act serious. I'll do this gracefully. Level up. Okay, let's go.
Okay, I only need 2 more cycles, thankfully. And Blonde's grind is a little less repetitive than this.
You
There's a
look
bit more
pretty tough.
downtime.
I need to. It's time to depart.
But yeah, this is around the time when I'm really starting to expect the game to crash. So you'll see me save relatively often,
I'm a goddess candidate
even though nothing I'm doing
waiting.
is at all challenging.
Okay, let's
Okay, this should be the final quest that I need to get Leanbox to 50% shares, so then I can recruit Bert and finally get my first CPU.
Going at full power. I'll do this gracefully. I need to.
Gonna accept this as well. And you can see I now have 50% shares. Now what I'm going to do is actually get both Vert and Tekken. But yeah, next up I need to buy some stuff. So Rom is going to take a back seat from the party for the time being. And I'm going to save. I've recruited both Vert and Tekken. And now I can start getting shares for Blanc.
I gotta act serious. I won't let you go.
Now this fight has a relatively easy way to beat it,
I'll do my best.
provided that you have anti-paralysis on Cave, because these guys love to inflict paralysis.
Super help.
You can see that Netgear got paralyzed. So
Level up.
all I need to do is build EXE to level 1, use the EXE, and they should die, or at least come close.
Finally, my turn.
I can go anytime. Leave this to me.
They can defend and then they probably won't die, but that's about it. This time Nichune got paralyzed.
Finally, my turn. You couldn't avoid.
Okay, that's 2 down. I'm just repeating this quest 8 times, and then I will have 50% shares for Loi.
I'll finish you this turn.
So this fight just always follows the same template, provided that both Nichune and Netgear don't get paralyzed.
Do my best.
That's pretty unlikely. But it would slow things down a bit if it happened.
I'll finish you this turn. You couldn't avoid. Finally, my turn.
I'll do my best. Okay. I'll do my best. Leave this to me.
It's my turn.
Okay, that's 4.
Level up.
4 more. This one goes by pretty quickly.
I'll finish you this turn.
I'll do my best. Okay. I need to calm myself. Okay.
I'll finish you this turn. You couldn't avoid.
That was pretty unlucky that time. 2 of them were guarding. That's 5.
Please, everyone, lend me your strength.
It's my turn.
I need to calm myself.
So yeah, it's have Uni use her rush attacks, have the other 2 defend, get up to EXE level 1 and then unleash the EXE. So that's 6. 2 more.
Time to shine.
I'm not going to save between these just because they're so quick,
It's my turn.
and because it would take quite a lot of time to save.
I'll do
I would
my
have to
best.
back entirely out of the menu,
I can go
but I will save
anytime.
after I've got Blonde in my party.
Super healthy.
It's my turn.
That's 7.
You look pretty tough.
It's my turn.
Oh damn it, I screwed up slightly.
Okay.
I think this will be okay still though. Might just need to use both Neptune and Netgear to build EXE. Okay, no, it's still fine.
It's my turn.
Sometimes you can't hit all of them at once, so it can waste a bit more time. That's very rare though.
Super healthy. I'll do this. I need to calm myself.
It's my turn.
We need to get stronger.
And that should be it.
Here we go
So now we recruit Blanc, and that's it.
Let's do our best.
But I'm not going to get Blanc's maker, because her maker is useless. I get Tekken because she's kind of useful, and I get Lustation's maker just because I want to use Lustation as kind of a base of operations later.
Leave this. I need to calm my.
I'll finish you.
I'll do this. I can go in.
I feel power flowing from within.
Anyway, I'll save now. I haven't saved in a while.
Let's do our best.
So yeah, now I'm trying to get Lustation to 50% by removing shares from Louis, and conveniently if I fight this Fenrir 11 times, that'll do the trick.
Going at full power. I'll do this gracefully.
I'll finish you this.
Super. Leave this.
Finally.
I won't let. I can go. My devil gene is going to awaken.
Thankfully there are no more grinds where I have to do 2 quests at once. Okay, no, I'm lying. There are... I will do 2 quests at once for the Planetune grind, but both of them will be increasing Planetune instead of just one. So it won't be anywhere near as slow as the Lean Box one.
Going at full power. My turn.
Finally. My turn.
No.
I'll finish you.
I won't let. I need to. I'm more beautiful now. Okay.
Oh, I entered the wrong dungeon. That actually wasted a jink button that I need, but oh well. I can buy it again later. I'll just buy it in the shop soon. And yes, we are getting much closer to the actual ending now. So, fasten your seatbelts.
Don't think you'll get out in one piece.
Finally.
I need to call soup. I need to.
I'll finish.
I'll do this. I need to. I leveled up. Let's do our best.
Okay, I'll do this one. That'll be 5, and then I'll save. And then I'll save after doing 8 as well. We're about halfway through Noir's grind. Well, a little under halfway, obviously,
I'll take care of you
since
even
I need to do it
without
11 times and I've done it 4 so far.
I'll finish you this.
No,
It's
That was a mistake, but not a huge one.
I'm going to get even stronger.
Almost time for Conquest. Just a little more grinding.
Time to depart.
Gotta make Planetune OP first. But first I need Noir, of course.
I'll show you what a true barrage is
Leave
like.
it to me.
Finally.
Super.
It's my
turn. Super.
level up.
Okay. Let's
5
go.
more times for the last station. And it's nearly time to murder CPUs. There's no real way to make share grinding any more thrilling than it is though. It's just
Can't lose
boring,
this battle.
I'll do
and it
this
always will be boring,
Finally.
because shares aren't meant to be easy to get.
I need to.
Finally.
Leave it to me. Level up. Okay, let's go.
In any case, that is 7 out of 11. We also get lustation to exactly 50%. In fact, the only one we don't get to the exact number is Louis.
You even without sis.
It's my turn.
I can go any. Leave the. I need to. No.
I'll finish.
I won't let. I'll do my.
He's giving me some really shitty patterns. As in, he keeps debuffing my strength and he keeps blowing me back.
Let's do our.
And yes, there are a lot of dead dog wolves. I think I kill about 20 of them total. Because I have to kill 6. Oh no, I kill 12 to deal with Lean Box. 11 here and 6 more for Planetune, so
Time to
29 of
shine.
them.
My turn.
Almost 30.
I'll finish you this turn.
I can go any. I need to.
So the Fenriers get murdered, kind of.
Leave it to. I can go any. The sound of leveling up is music to my ears.
And you might notice that my eject button count is always 12. Well, I'm not cheating, it just so happens that this quest drops one eject button whenever you complete it. So I use one, I go down to 11, and then I immediately get one back. So no, I'm not using any kind of cheat engine or whatever.
Time to shine.
It's just a coincidence that it drops an eject button.
It's my turn.
I leave the. I. Soup.
Finally.
My turn. I need to. I think I'm stronger now, you. Okay.
Anyway, one
let's
more
go.
Flame Fenrir. And then I'll spare him and go back to the blue ones. So that I can finish off Planetune.
I'll take care of you even without sis.
I'll finish you this turn.
I. I need to.
I did at least poison it this time. And it died to the poison.
You became stronger.
What am I doing? No, just go to the guild. Okay, so I recruit Noir. I get her Maker not because I need it in any way, but because I want to use Lastation as my base of operations. Okay, and then I do a few quests. I can actually do the netball quest right from the start of the game.
Let's do our best.
And that gives me just enough shares so that now I can kill a few monsters and it's enough. I only need to do 6 more cycles now, so it's almost over.
I'll show you what a true barrage is
My
like.
turn.
It's my. I feel power flowing from within.
I think I'll save now though. Because I didn't save after
Time to depart.
getting Noir. And I'm sure the game will crash pretty soon because we're about at the 2-hour mark. Now this is the most annoying boss we fight, apart from the Flame Fenrir, because it's just so far away and you have to keep running your characters forward. But yeah, now I'm going to use up my last 12 eject buttons. Five more times to do this. You'll notice that every time I do it, I gain 8% shares on Planetune. And right now I have 15%, so 8 times 5 is 40, and I'll have exactly 55% when I'm done.
I wonder if I can win. I won't let you go.
It's
And
my.
that'll be that.
Okay, let's go.
And I'll save after 2 more cycles.
The enemy looks strong, but I won't let you go.
I'll finish you this.
I can go anytime. Okay, let's go.
This is almost the last you'll see of these really old dungeons. We really just move forward from now on. Although there isn't a ton of being in dungeons left in the game anyway,
Won't let you go.
I'll
because of how the Conquest ending plays out.
finish you this.
I'll do.
Thankfully, both Beauty and Cave have quite decent range on their skills. It's just Netgear that I have to run forward a lot. I also have a ton of credits that I don't really need. I will get some more gear for my characters once I begin the actual battle, but
Going
once I
at
begin the
full
actual
power.
hard battles,
Won't
but
let you go.
Finally.
for now I don't do a whole lot.
It's time to depart.
It's not going to be a sub 2 run, but it'll be pretty close.
The enemy
If
is
I
strong.
ever like try to speedrun this category seriously, what I want to get is sub 2.
I'll do my best.
This run wasn't quite good enough for that because of all the saving, but it's still pretty good.
Let's do our best.
2 more cycles, and then I finally get to go back to the main plot. Because I have all my shares where I want them and all the right characters in my party. Again, I do not need to recruit all the
I'll take care of
makers.
you even without Sis.
Finally.
It's only the CPUs.
Stronger now. Let's do our best.
So I've left Marvelous AQL unrecruited, and that's fine. Don't need her.
We can't lose this battle.
Leave it to me.
Finally.
I'll do my. Okay, let's go.
Last cycle, if the game decides not to crash, then I can go and finally rescue Hissy. She's been waiting for about half an hour.
I'll head in from the front.
I'll do this gracefully.
Finally.
Let's do
Oops,
our
wrong
best.
run dungeon again. Thankfully I don't need to eject out of this one because it's
Let's do our
not
best.
all that far away from the entrance. So I don't need to waste my last eject button, which I need to get out of this dungeon.
I gotta act serious. My turn. Sometimes.
It's my turn.
I'll do my. Yeah.
Okay, and that's my last eject button. And now I have Planitude at 55% shares, so onwards we go.
Let's go.
We're finally done with share grinding. I have all 3 CPUs, I have Planitude at 55%, so I can actually begin the Conquest soon. I will put Cave back into my party. I mean, I'll put Rom back into my party for these 2 boss battles. And I also save, and now it's time for Trick. Trick. Not a difficult battle, especially not with Planitude shares buffed to 55%. Now it might seem like it makes more sense to do Trick before you do all the share grinding, but the strange thing is that if you do Trick, then all the Colosseum quests disappear. So I need those Colosseum quests in order to get Louis shares. So I just need to do Trick now, even though otherwise I could do the grinding later.
I'll do this.
Okay, so
gracefully. Processor unit.
this is a fairly standard fight.
I can go anytime. I'm sorry. I'll be serious now. No attacking while I'm transforming. I need to do this. It's my turn.
I can't.
I need to do
That can
this.
sometimes happen. That doesn't really matter.
I'll end this with one. I need to come. Who will?
I don't.
You're within my. I need to. It's. I'll do my.
I don't.
It's my turn.
Now.
You my obedience forever.
Rebel.
So yeah, nothing remarkable about the trick battle, just a standard fight with XEs. I only put Rom in so that I can actually buff my character's strength. He does have a ton of regen though. I'll save before magic even though it's probably not necessary, just because Trick has really long cutscenes before and after him. So I don't want to have to repeat those cutscenes. Magic is not anywhere near as tanky as Trick.
Please,
She does hit really hard though.
lend me your strength. I won't let you go. Time to get serious. I can go anytime. Leave
I actually have
me.
Neptune's EXE now.
I need to do this. Super.
For the
Whoops,
I need to
that was a
calm-
mistake.
I need to do.
You're within my reach.
Okay. I need.
Define me. I'll end this with
I'll do. Watch.
the game.
Here we are. I need to calm my.
No. This
Her not dying to 2 XEs is pretty rare though actually.
I think.
But yeah, okay, she's down. And now, if we did everything right, which I'm pretty sure we did, the end begins. And there we go. Apocalypse, a Saviour's Sorrow. Of course, we're not going to get right into the action. It's not immediate conquest, but first we get to visit one more dungeon.
Okay, let's go.
I'll grab a little bit of gear out of here.
What's
Conquest
this?
ending doesn't upgrade the shops you can get at all, so the only real, like, chapter 6 onwards gear you can get is by picking up these chests in this dungeon. Now it is almost time. We hear a lot of land castle music in these cutscenes. And then the false hope. Where Netgear is like, oh, I'll just take all the shares, and then the other CPU's like, no, fuck you. Why the hell did you think that was a good idea? So, okay, time to set up for the battles. What did I want? Oh, this one. Cave in and... What am I doing? And then... Archbangle, I don't have that, whatever. And then finally you take that and that. No, not that. And you... Hold on, let's do this. Yeah, view one cutscene, and then I'll save. That took a while to do all that menuing, but it's okay. It's worth it because these are actually decently difficult fights. At least the first two are, and then after that they get a little easier.
I'll show you what a true barrage is
I'll
like.
end this with one. It's my turn.
This is
So the
all
star of the
finished
show
this
here should be
turn.
Cave, if all goes well. Okay, they're a little further groups apart than I would like. I probably won't be able to hit them both at once, which will slow down the EXE grinding. That's okay. I'll just hit Uni.
Now what?
Well, I can hit them both
Time
with
to get
Neptune.
serious.
This is here with finally my turn.
I can still hit them both with the EXE anyway.
This is how
It's my turn.
you're with. It's my turn.
And I can just barely get both of them. I just barely can't get both of them.
Okay, you're with.
They've separated by quite a bit, but oh well.
I'll. Who's next?
Oh my god, I didn't account for
my
her
turn.
dying.
Now,
I'll finish you this turn.
And I can't get both of them at once
It's my
anymore, but that's
turn.
okay.
is it my turn already? It's my turn.
This is how I'll finish you this. I'll.
I need to be
Now,
as
if
good as my
I do
sister.
both of the
It's my
EXE
turn.
drives, it should almost kill her.
Should I
Okay, need a little more.
Finish you. This is how.
It's my turn.
It's my turn.
Neptune's not strength buffed anymore, that would explain it.
My turn.
I'll try this one.
Wants to take me
Okay,
on.
I don't care if you
This
die.
is how-
Let me. It's my turn.
No matter what, I won't rage quit.
And rip.
I think
First CPU's down. And now for the hardest battle in the game, at least for this ending. I will use some of that equipment I just got. Okay, so this fight is ridiculously difficult if they get bad patterns.
I wonder if I can win. Okay. It's a little scary. Behold my power. Now I can. Who should I take on?
I'll finish you this turn.
That's kind of a bad pattern because they're so separated.
I'm ready.
So okay.
It's my turn.
Yeah, I can't even get both of, I can't even get two of them right now. I should be able to now though.
I'll finish this.
I'm not sure if I can kill Ron with this, but I'm gonna try. Okay, we got them.
So Olive, up now. Is it my turn already?
They get a ton of turns as well. But getting one of them down that fast really helps.
I'll finish you this turn.
Who should I take on? Now.
Okay, Neptune died, that's okay. Actually, kill Ram first,
My
then
turn.
revive her. So now
Okay.
both sisters are down,
Going
so this is
happy
fine.
while I'm transforming.
I'll finish you this turn.
I'll heal you.
I'm re-
Up. Let me.
It's my turn.
It's my turn.
I'll only attack with characters that actually have a strength boost because it doesn't do enough damage
Who wants to
otherwise.
take-
It's my turn. Who should I take on? Olive.
I'll
perish.
finish this.
Win the round.
That's fine.
Need to be as good as. I'm gonna let my guard down.
Okay, and that's them down. The roughest fight in the game actually went pretty well. But then you get this cutscene, which is kind of hard to take. It is over pretty quickly though, since it's a speedrun. Hold on, I just need to equip these. The candidate Aegis is the better one of the two. So yep, rip Roman Ram, rip Blanc. Now it's time for Vert, who is the highest single stats, but obviously not all that difficult of a fight since it's just one
No matter
character.
who I face, I'll trust my this to me. Who should I take on?
I will not. I'll finish you this turn.
I need to call processor unit set.
Are you ready? I'll finish you this turn.
Time to get serious. I need to be a... Who should I take on?
Are you? I'll finish this. It's my
turn. Who should I...
I will not. I'll finish this.
It's my turn.
This is not happening.
And Vert is, well, pretty free, but then the next fight is going to be even more free. This one should take under a minute.
Please, everyone, lend me your strength. Now what? No attacking while I'm transforming. It's might.
It's might.
All right.
I'll finish this. I'll finish you.
I can go anytime.
You better be. Who wants to take me on? Not yet.
I like seeing that big damage on Drone Underling. I could have probably done it a little faster,
And
but she just gets absolutely wrecked. So Underling gets absolutely murdered as well. And then we get the cutscene death. Would have been an interesting opportunity for a 1v1. Although I'm not sure that they could have really justified it with Netgear's character being what it is. But, like, a duel here would be kind of cool. For gameplay reasons. I'll save again just because of crashing, not because this fight is any difficult. And time is coming up pretty shortly, so get ready, Z-Fresh.
We can't lose this battle.
And this fight is just ridiculously free at this point.
Finally, my turn.
I need to calm my... I'm sorry. I'll be serious now.
I'm not ready.
You are so ready.
I almost died.
My turn.
My turn. It's my turn. Who should I take on?
Destruct.
It's my turn. I won't lose.
Is it my... Let me see.
Finally, my. Leave it to me.
I need to be as good...
Time.
Is crumbling.
2:02:12.
Yeah, pretty much what I got as well. Well done, that's it. So yeah, again, the timer isn't matching the gameplay quite, because the timer doesn't quite match the gameplay because we started and ended it early, but it's fine. It also started about 10 seconds early. So GG, that is Conquest ending. Done in just over 2 hours. It can probably be done in just under 2 hours if you don't save a billion times like I did. But you also have to... you need to make sure that the game doesn't crash. And the game likes to crash, so whatever.
GG, Dabom.
That's my final solo run. I should be back for the V2 race, provided I can get up in time.
Alright, I'll delay it a little bit.
It's up to how well you do in vanilla.
Huh?
It's up to how well you do in vanilla.
I'm glad about.
Oh well.
Alright, that was Dabomstew with Conquest. You guys, hopefully you guys enjoyed that run. We're going to be going to F-Lowly's runs.
Yep.
So we're going to a
Time
short
for
intermission.
the side shows, or spin-offs. Bad wording.
Alright, Dabom, you have a good night. See you later.
See you later.